Today we're going to share with you how we're going to cut our garden planning in half using Chat GPT. If you're anything like me, you like to push things off and you're going to push off your planning of your garden. When the time comes around, you're going to be scrambling, you're going to be looking at seed packets, you're going to be doing all this research. Before you know it, you have a couple hours put into your planning and you really haven't even gotten a seed in the ground. So today we're going to share with you our new method for planting our garden. It's going to cut down tremendously on our time for planning, and within a matter of minutes we're going to show you how we can lay out an entire garden using Chat GPT. I know that might sound like overkill, but I'm telling you, stick with us. We're going to walk through step by step. We're going to show you all the pros and cons to using this tool, and this one's really going to apply if you're a beginner gardener and you really don't know where to start, to all the way to your expert level gardeners that might just need a little refresher. You can add in whatever layer of complexity you want, and that's really the beauty of using a tool like ChatGPT. So stick with us. We're going to do something a little different today. We're going to get on the computer and we're going to actually screen share here in a second, and we're going to show you how to lay out a garden. All right, guys, we got our screen share up here. We're on the ChatGPT homepage. If you guys are not familiar, it's a really simple sign-up process. All you need is your email. You create a password, and you're going to be good to go. So a couple things before we start. The version we're going to use here, ChatGPT 3.5, that is your free version. Pretty straightforward. You don't have to pay for it. GPT-4 is going to be your upgraded paid version of ChatGPT. Only difference that I'm aware of is just this one is going to be more updated. So GPT 3.5, I believe if you're looking for specific data, it was only updated up until 2021. So there's certain things that you're not going to be able to pull by using GPT 3.5. But when it comes to gardening, I mean, this stuff's been tried and true for years and years and years. This is plenty to get the job done here. So we're going to go ahead now and we're going to get started with our garden planning. And basically, to use this tool where it says send a message, you're just going to click there and it's basically going to work like a Google search bar. The only thing I will say, I should say there's two things that I want to caution you on. First, it is a computer, so it is going to give whatever information you're asking it to give. So if you're not specific, if you're not detailed, it's going to give vague answers, and it can be a little frustrating. So you really have to learn to work with it and be very specific. You'll see when I type this out, I'll type it in a way that I typically wouldn't speak, and that's really just so you can get the computer to actually pull out what you want. And hey, we might even mess up along the way, and that's why I'm showing you this today. The second piece that I'll caution you on is, again, it's a computer and you're going to need to fact check from time to time. When it comes to this stuff, it's pretty accurate just because, you know, it's pulling from all over the place. So again, a lot of gardening methods, the stuff is out there, it's pretty accessible, but there are instances where it might throw you for a little bit of a loop, so don't just trust it right away. Especially when you're not familiar with the tool. So get to learn the tool a little bit, and then you can start trusting it a little more, but always do some fact checking. So now we're going to go ahead and we are going to get started. So if you're a beginner gardener, there's a lot of things you can do to even get off the ground here. You might not even know what USDA zone you're in. You know, obviously that's a simple question. What USDA zone am I located in at this location? It'll come right up for you. We know we're in 6B here, so we're going to go with that. You might want to ask what vegetables, what plants grow well in my area, and again, as detailed as possible. It's going to give you better information the more detail you add to it. So those are just the initial ground level questions. If you have no idea how to start a garden, no idea what to plant, we're not going to start at that level. I trust that anyone watching this can figure that out on their own. Now what we're going to go for, we're actually going to have this lay out our garden beds for us. Hypothetically speaking, this isn't going to be exactly how our garden is, but it's more of an illustration to show you guys how powerful this tool can be. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get all the information for our seed starts, when to start our seeds, when to transplant, our plant spacing recommendations, all stuff that you can quite frankly find on the back of your seed packets, or you can look online and find on different websites. But this is going to compile it all in one list for us. It's going to make it a lot easier to work with than clicking back and forth to different websites or going out in your closet or whatever, wherever you store your seeds, and looking at different packets. This is going to put it all in one for you. So I'm going to go ahead now. I actually have it typed out already. I'm just going to paste it in for the sake of time here today. So you can see I basically typed out in list format, create a garden guide for common vegetables in zone 6B. And then again, this is where the detail matters. Columns include type of vegetables, specific date to start seeds indoor based on last frost date of May 12th. Same thing for the transplants based on last frost date, and plant spacing recommendations. Now I'm also going to go ahead and include a separate list for direct sow vegetables and recommended sowing dates. And this is just going to help us organize a little better and really get to see, okay, what seeds do I start inside? What doesn't need to get started inside? And again, for planning purposes, if you haven't done this before, it's going to already get you off on a good foot there. So we just go ahead, we hit enter. And this is where we cross our fingers and hope that the right thing comes out. So as it's typing, you can see how quickly this is pulling this information. Just looking at it on the surface here, it looks to be pretty accurate. And I'll go back here in a second when it's done. And it always puts a little, warning note on the end. Please note, dates are approximate, could be adjusted based on local weather conditions and so forth. So we'll go back to the top and you can see what I asked. So asked for your type of vegetable right here on the left hand column, start seeds indoors, transplant, and then your plant spacing for when you actually put them out to the garden. Now I know from experience around here this is pretty much spot on for tomatoes. I typically in my head just say Valentine's Day, but this is pretty much spot on for tomatoes, peppers, even broccoli, cabbage, anywhere within that range. I like that it gives a range. Your seed packets are usually going to say 6 to 8 weeks before last frost or 8 to 10 weeks before last frost. So this kind of gives you that range for you. Again, for planning purposes, it makes it nice. You don't have to look at every packet. You don't have to count back. It's all right here for you. So that looks good. And then we go to the direct sow, and again, that looks pretty good. A lot of this stuff can get sown here in Pennsylvania before your frost. Obviously, then you go down here to the later list, beans, corn, that stuff. If you're going to sow it direct sow, you're going to want to wait till right around that frost time. Okay, so now, like I said in the beginning, I feel like I have to continue to repeat this part. This stuff is all accessible on various websites, on seed packets. I'm not claiming this to be any sort of new phenomenon there, but it's a way to organize it. But now the next step is where this tool really gets interesting and really becomes useful. I'm going to first narrow our list down. For the sake of this example, we're going to remove some of these just because, quite honestly, I'm not going to plant this much stuff, and I bet a lot of people wouldn't either. So let's just say let's just remove a couple things here for the sake of this example. So I'm going to remove leeks, artichokes, cauliflower, radish, corn, pumpkins, melons. Really no rhyme or reason. I'm just kind of picking some random things to take off the list here. We'll hit enter. And then it is going to give us the exact same list, and now it's condensed. Okay, so this is what we're going to plant in our garden here. Now, when you're talking about planting a garden with this tool, You pretty much, again, specifics, you're going to give your space of your garden. I like to basically just tell it, hey, plant me a garden, and it's going to throw out for each bed. So I'm going to type an example out here. I'm terrible at multitasking, so I'm going to type and then I'll explain it. Okay, so I think this will work. I put now plant a garden layout to include both lists above. Consider including all vegetables from the list and maximize grow space based on plant spacing recommendations. I put that there are 6 beds that are each 4 by 8. So hopefully this gives us kind of what we want. And you're going to see it's going to lay it out, bed 1, 2, 3, and so forth. And it's going to put in there whatever you want. I'm also going to add companion planting. So you're also going to include companion planting to add another level of complexity to this. Again, you can take this as far as you want. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to enter here. And there you have it. The cool thing about this is it's going to tell you how many of each plant to put in. And we're going to back up here. So you can see, let's break it down by bed. Bed 1 is basically just going to leave us to tomatoes and basil. So the cool thing about this, it's going to put a specific number of plants for each bed. It also threw in there, you see basil. Now, where did basil come from? It pulled that because basil is a companion plant for tomatoes. It says it right here. Now, it wasn't on our list, but it's also an interesting piece of information because basil isn't going to get very large. And if you're going to put tomatoes in, you might as well throw some basil in there right with those tomatoes. So pretty cool that it adds that. Now, if you guys have been gardening a while, you're going to look at this first bed and you're going to see 2 tomato plants in a raised bed. You probably can do a lot more than that if you really want to. But if you're new and you haven't done it before and you're not familiar with pruning, tomato plants do get pretty large. So 2 tomatoes in a bed is definitely, I don't think it's unreasonable. But again, you definitely, if you really wanted to, you could plant more. Again, this is just a starting point for you. Move on to bed 2. You can see peppers and onions, plant in 2 rows. That's pretty cool. Onions are interspersed, so it even will go into that depth of kind of how you intermix your plantings there. Again, for pepper plants, you can always go higher density planting. A lot of people do. A lot of people will go even more complex, and they're not going to just do peppers and onions. Maybe they'll do peppers, onions, and some greens. Same with the tomatoes and basil. Maybe you'll throw some flowers in there, some marigolds, things like that. There's always options, but again, this is base level. Moving on to bed 3, you can see broccoli and cabbage, and we're not going to go through all of them here, but you get the gist. Bed 4, you have Brussels sprouts, eggplant. Bed 5, carrots, beets, Swiss chard, a lot of your root crops there, minus the Swiss chard is a green. And then you're going to have your lettuce, your peas, your greens, cucumbers. I mean, this is a pretty jam-packed bed here. You can see they even included a trellis for the cucumbers. So that's interesting. I actually haven't had a result like this before. But if I didn't like this, I could also just go ahead and say, rearrange bed 6, eliminate the beans, eliminate the cucumbers, just too much going on. So again, this is the part where you can go in a lot of different directions and you can ask it to really do whatever you want. Maybe you would decide, hey, I have the space, I want to break bed 6 into a 7th bed, and it certainly will do that for you. So moving on, we're going to actually, I guess I didn't say this in the beginning, it's a spring garden. Pretty much whenever you talk gardening, people are thinking spring gardening, last frost. That's what we've been talking about. So for the sake of the example here, we're going to use this layout to a T. We're going to follow this exactly. But now I want to take it a step further, and I want to figure out, okay, what plants can I put in after? How do I do some succession planting here? You first need to figure out, okay, which bed is going to produce first, which bed is going to kind of finish production the soonest. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to ask exactly that. So I just ask which bed will be done producing first, and then it's going to come back with bed 5. So bed 5 contains carrots, beets, Swiss chard. Yeah, that's definitely accurate. Your beets are going to produce pretty early because you're going to plant them before your last frost. Same with the carrots. And chard is very quick to harvest. So being that bed 5 is going to be our first bed to harvest, now we're going to look at what we can plant after that. So I'm basically going to go ahead So now I'm basically just going to go ahead and put this. I'm going to keep it somewhat simple. What will be a good replacement for bed 5 at the date of harvest? And we're going to go ahead. And there you go. So it is basically going to spit out that we're going to look for a fall crop. Being that it is going to be summer when these things get harvested for the most part, so we're going to look for something in a little bit of a with a little bit of a shorter growing season. So it's going to recommend lettuce, radish, kale, arugula, and Swiss chard again. Swiss chard, it does say again too. That's kind of funny. It's something that can be pretty much grown all summer long here in Pennsylvania, and a lot of these greens can. You will have a little bit of challenge right in the middle of summer, July, some of those hot days in August, but you can pretty much plant this stuff throughout your season here. So that's going to be it for our garden planning for today. As you saw, we compiled a list of common vegetables here in Zone 6B. That information, again, accessible anywhere. You can find it anywhere online. You can look on the back of your seed packets. I'm not claiming that that's new. But the way that this tool organizes that stuff is going to save you so much time. I mean, if you're an experienced gardener and you've been doing it for years, a lot of this stuff you're just going to know, but you're always going to need a little bit of a refresher. I'm at the point where I pretty much will just look for some refreshers here and there. If you're a beginner gardener, this is a great place to start. If you really don't know much, I mean, look how quickly all this information got thrown your way. And then to break it out into beds, I think that's really valuable for varying skill levels, varying experience levels. There's a lot of, I guess, other layers of complexity you could add to this. I kept it relatively simple today. And then even the succession planning, that's a really cool thing that I was just messing around with. And I think that's really interesting because a lot of times we plant our garden, we let it go, and then we don't put anything else in. So, I mean, I could go on and continue to show you examples, but you can really, I mean, you can look for supplementation, whether it's organic, inorganic, different ways to mulch, shade cloths, trellising, anything you put in here, it's going to spit out an answer. Again, very specific. It's important that you're using detail, or it will give you some vague responses, or maybe even kind of mess up where you're at. But once you get comfortable using this tool, again, definitely use it to your advantage. And I hope that you see the value in this today. Again, saving tons of time. So I encourage you guys, give it a shot. Get on here and mess around, see what you can come up with. Before you know it, you'll probably be showing me a thing or two. But we're going to continue to work with this and continue to incorporate this in our planning. So that's it for today, guys. I know it was a little bit of a different one. I know there may be some questions out there. You might even be thinking, is that really necessary? It's not. Again, it's definitely not necessary. But if you want to get something done quickly, if you're a beginner and just trying to figure this out, Chat GPT definitely the way to go. Definitely an easy way to lay out a garden. You're gonna also learn a lot along the way. You know, you can continuously just plug in new information, new data, ask new questions, and at the very least, you're definitely gonna learn a thing or two. It's always good to be able to use these tools. This is gonna be the way of the future. So it's something that whether you use it for gardening or something else, you might as well, learn a new skill today. So we hope that helps. We hope that provides value for you in your upcoming garden season. I know it's only October. I sound crazy talking about gardening here when most people are just putting their gardens to bed, but spring planting is coming soon. Seed starting is right around the corner in the new year. So you definitely got to start thinking about it here. So if you like what we're doing, guys, give us a good old thumbs up, pound that subscribe button. We really appreciate your support there. Guys, have a great night. Thank you for watching.